Welcome back to the Titanium Hanger. This is Mike coming at you with the next round of the Hiya toys. The Exquisite Mini 4-inch scale G.I.Joe semi-classified styled figures. But we'll take a look at these. We've got Outback, Crimson Viper, ZARANA, and Bazooka. Take a look at all four of these today. And it's always fun when these show up. They don't release very many figures a year, but it's very seldom we get four at once, which is pretty cool. Anyway, let's take a look at these. I did get these at Gundam.com. I have a link down below where you can get some of these if they're still in stock. But anyway, let's take a look at each one of these coming up. Although I did show the intro with the packaging, it's somewhat G1-esque vintage retro style, but there's no white stripe around there. I will be doing some more vintage packaging in Retro Wednesday, but just not a whole lot. Just the picture of the figure on the back, bunch of writing and stuff for each one. But I guess might as well show the packaging. Would you want to display these in the package? I think they would display very, very well. Fine in the package. What Super 7's doing with the kind of the stripe around them and stuff that makes it look a little bit more authentic and stuff. And then, yeah, they do have like stock keeping stickers. It's probably on somewhere on one of these. How come Outback's the only one that got one that I see? But yeah, I think they'd look fine if you kept them in the package also. But these are all coming out. Let's just start with the Crimson Viper. I do think he looks pretty good. It's not something that I'm really into getting a whole lot of different color variations of the same figures, but the Crimson Guard, Crimson Viper, I think it's all going to work together and be pretty nice. I must say, a lot going on with this figure, and I don't remember the first Viper having so much issue with holding the gun. So I will say that let's go do some nice stuff first here, though. His goggles. Get in a little closer on this. His goggles are connected to where they can just slide up. They hold on or come down, which is still kind of crazy because he's got a face shield. But it's vac metallized face shield. So I mean, there's a lot of cool stuff going on with it. Really like the silver paint. Let's get the focus in there a little bit better. I like the silver paint for the tampograph there. There's lots of paint apps, paint hits all over this thing. And so, yeah, that does make it look pretty good overall. He has removable pistol, which, so they get in there kind of tight. So there's his removable pistol. And then he's got a dagger. Kind of hard to get that on camera. It's tiny. And then these holsters, I think, move the belt. I believe it's removable. The vest piece, I bet, could be removed if you wanted to. Or it's glued on. The backpack, they made a real big deal about strapping it down in the package. I don't think it was all that necessary, personally, because it was already held in by the next layer of plastic. But looking good overall. Like there's Cobra symbols on both sides. If you collect vintage, you know how important it is to try to finally track one down that has a decent Cobra symbol if you're looking for something like that. But anyway, let's look at it real quick with some comparisons. But I do want to say he's got this gun, he's got this gun. They can hold onto the backpack with the tabs in the backpack, and really a struggle to hold them. And he's got two different types of gripping hands. It's not showing up. I can't tell much of a difference. Just a slight difference in the angle of the gripping that's going on right there with it. And then let's do quick comparisons. All right, I don't have a standard Hiya Toys Viper, so now I got to look into that. Did I just miss it or what? But Viper's one of my favorites, so I mean, obviously I would want to have a Viper in this collection. Their Crimson Guard is phenomenal. It looks outstanding. This is a vintage, I think a 90s. He doesn't want to take the stand for some reason. I'm not exactly sure what year they came out with this, but it's kind of like a Crimson Viper in itself. And it doesn't have a vac metallized face shield. But that's the closest vintage one I've got to this. So yeah, kind of a cool addition to the collection overall. Still that is just fantastic looking. This is kind of puts them in the same world. Next up is ZARANA, and she's one of the ones I was kind of looking forward to the most. I do like the Dreadnoks, and I've always liked her. I had her as a kid, and I liked her. She was really a cool figure overall. Looking at her back, this fell out while I was messing around with changing heads. I was like, something fell. I don't know exactly what it is. It's like a shotgun, it looks like, but could also be a knife. Dagger, just a weapon fabricated out of stuff just so she has it, goes into her backpack. Does not hold in very well, but if she's standing there, it's gonna be fine. That's how they did her. That's how they did her rear. That's how that looks. Always viewed her as in like decent shape, but not perfect shape. It's kind of like a little bit out of shape in a way. I don't know how to explain it. It's kind of how I felt the cartoon depicted her too. But anyway, they do have a couple head portraits with her. She has her gun. She has this dagger. I wonder if it's the exact same dagger in all of them. Just this little knife that they've got going on. She got great paint apps and stuff. And we'll see how she fares with the rest of the comparison to the vintage ones. Now, the gun is different than the vintage ones, which I'll just go ahead and whip that out right now. That's how the vintage one. I'm coming to the realization that somebody said this is the license for this was to make them to look like classifieds. I think that they have the classified 4-inch scale license because so much of this is so almost exact like the classifieds, which on one hand takes the design decisions off your hands because we can't. Got to be just like the classified. But on the other hand, it limits them in a way. But I still think it looks good. I think the classified one looked pretty good. And the difference in the head sculpts, and we're gonna see. It's just so hard to do this without bringing in the vintage ones. But we're gonna bring the vintage ones in just a second. Now we'll bring this head sculpt back out when we have the vintage ones out here. But truthfully, I don't really like the different color in the hair. I want it classic, so let's get these vintage ones out here so we can see. There are two different versions of ZARANA that they made back in the day. Now, the head sculpt on this one looks hideous in my opinion. And some people are like, well, I like that one better. This is the one I had as a kid. So the one I had as a kid is the one that I like the most. Now I'm looking at this head sculpt here, and I think it matches up to this. Let's see if that works. That face there better. And I knocked her over. And then I look at the head sculpt here, doesn't match that really at all. So just, I don't know. It's kind of hard for me to decide which head sculpt I like better because of that. Now, based on the vintage ones, their backpack was very simple and simplistic, and even she wants to fall over. It does look like she has something in the back of her backpack to pull out, like the knife that's in there. But these are also ones that are hard to get vintage in great shape because they are also sonic welded together like they're brothers Zoltan. And anyway, ZARANA, I think they did a pretty good job on her. And I do like the classified, so there's that. All right, for Bazooka, we're going to start with one of these has to have articulation. So he has the least on him right now. Left, right, up, down, ball joint. Not a whole lot up. They do have butterflies, as you can see, and reverse butterfly. So that works. Shoulder goes out right to there, but you can flip the shoulder to get more, as if you want to cheat, obviously. Anyway, the biceps swivel, double jointed on the elbows, which I don't think ZARANA was double jointed on the elbow, but I wasn't going to, she's just so thin, so many small parts, I wasn't going to mess with that. You can have an in and out on the hands. Now the hands are a weak point, and they always have been for me on these. You have the diaphragm articulation, which cuts up is 14, which sucks, but it works. And then you got the waist, ball joint, and then legs. Not quite the splits. I don't think the character would have been able to do the splits anyway. You can go almost to the 90 front and back. You have this sort of universal joint, and you have the thigh cut. You have double jointed knees, and you have the, is it ball jointed? It's swivel right there. So the joints right there. So yeah, you get what you need out of this. But now we've got that. Let's get him armored up. And there he is, so we can take a look at him with his armored upness. And I'm liking Bazooka a lot. I actually think I might like him the most out of this. I don't want to call it a wave. Out of all these figures that I got my hands on at one time. First of all, does that have the removable helmet, which is nice. And it's nicer than the vintage one. See, I don't remember ever handling loose the 25th anniversary one. So some of the stuff might be similar to the 25th anniversary or 50th or whatever, whenever they came out with them. I don't know, but it's my first time really handling a modern version of this figure, and it's pretty nice. I haven't even opened my classified one. It was in the closed box, so it's I don't really know much about the figure because it was that era that Hasbro didn't like their consumer and had a closed box. He has this giant cannon, which makes a whole lot more sense than what you can see with the vintage one. This bazooka. And yeah, it makes sense. I'm wondering, I'm guessing, so you have to put all these missiles in here. And it was a little tricky at first. I didn't know the trick. The trick is you have to kind of put it in at an angle and then slide it down and tab it into place. So I'm sure classified collectors are like, duh, Mike, we knew that. Then you can kind of put that in there. And obviously it makes sense to use the different tips. Different color tips probably have different functions. Like one's going to blow something up a little more than something else. But this is really nice. When we get to the vintage, we're going to have to spend time comparing the backpacks. It's got this belt is a separate piece. But yeah, he looks really good. The paint apps, the paint hits look really good. The figure himself looks pretty good. The face sculpt actually probably matches the cartoon better than the, well, definitely matches the cartoon better than the vintage. Still not a perfect likeness of the character, but, and I think he's a little thinner than I would expect the character to be. But still just a striking looking figure. Really, really happy and pleased to have this one. So let's bring in the vintage one so we can do, because what I think is really important here is getting vintage. And of course, ZARANA had extra hands, he had extra hands. It's like holding hands and then slightly different with a trigger finger kind of hand. His was the easiest to put on. ZARANA's was pretty easy to put on too. I didn't really spend much time talking about her hands. They're so tiny. But anyhow, there it goes side by side. The vintage one was a lot of fun too, back in the day, obviously. But he had this little, tiny little, that's supposed to be the bazooka. Which is weird because they had one with Zap, a bazooka that should have been just carry over that weapon and put it with him. They weren't doing that back then. Very few weapons were shared between figures back in the day. I mean, they did share weapons, but not a whole lot. I don't know, they had bigger budgets. So what gets me is this backpack situation. So this, for my whole life, this has just been etched in, and you see them, sometimes the tips are broken off. But this is what it is. This is the missiles, the bazooka missiles that are going to be launching out of there, out of the launcher, missile launcher. And you can actually pull them out of his backpack. So it's just kind of like taking you to the next level, taking you to the next step. And yes, people that have opened their classified are like, yeah, man, we know that. Or some, maybe 25th anniversary did that too. I don't know. The 25th anniversary, I bought it mostly to look good in the package. But this figure looks great, a lot of fun, and yeah, I guess I might have been just missing out all these years. And so we have Outback, and Outback is one of my favorite figures, and the vintage one was one of my favorites. And modern iterations are fun because that if you have a figure that's like your favorite character, even if you don't know much about the character, but the figure you had as a kid was one of your favorites, then it kind of stands out as, you know, a character you like to have modern representations of. So, looking at this one, I have the classified one opened. I think this does a few things better, but a few things not as well. Uh, this is quintessential proof they literally copied. They literally copied it. I mean, there's a few differences I'll point out when we get to comparisons, but they pretty much copied it. So, getting into it though, what does this one do well? Well, first of all, I think the gun looks pretty good. I mean, this gun, to get a gun with unbroken strap on the vintage one is like $30. So, good luck. And even one with a broken strap is going to cost you close to that. So, this gun is more realistic looking. Or maybe it's just a different gun than what they put with them in the original vintage one. I do like the hair color. He's a ginger. He's got the red hair, orangish hair. So that's the way it is. He does have his flashlight, and it's got the silver paint hit on it, which classified doesn't look like it does. And then he comes with the dagger. I think they all do. And here's the weird part. So the dagger was already in there. This flashlight was not, and neither was his gun, his side pistol. Oh gosh, I had to put it in myself. The side pistol that looks like nothing real. Doesn't look like a real gun. Looks like Terminator's gun. Not Terminator. Not Terminator. No, it looked like RoboCop gun. Sorry, I got that wrong. This shovel does not want to stay in place. Does not want to hold on to this. Partially because this tab is a kind of a soft. No, it's not that soft. That's fun. So I'm complaining about the shovel won't stay on, right? And this falls off, rolls across the floor, and the shovel's still on there. Let's get that on there pretty tight. Anyway, he's also known for that giant backpack of his. His web gear, that is rubbery, and all these other pieces here are rubbery. Pretty good looking figure. Same articulation as Bazooka. And I think where this review of this guy is going to shine, let's take a little bit of time and just do one at a time. Yes, he does have the other hands, gripping hands and gripping with a trigger finger. Now, one of the things about the vintage one is getting this little flashlight. Now, obviously, they're completely different looking flashlights, but still similar in a way. Down here, you have the etched in knife, which is why, like, when I started getting into the 2008 era 25th anniversary, and then we get the 50th anniversary, and now with the Hiya toys, you actually can pull that knife out. See, and that's something as a kid, like, I always, my imagination, well, how come we could pop this flashlight off if we can't pull that knife out, you know? And then the backpack, there was really nothing going on with the backpack back in the day, and I used a similar type backpack like that. Oh. It helped doing a backpack comparison. I wonder if I'll edit that out. Maybe, maybe not. Then we have like a pocket here, but now they've got a pistol, which is more fun, I'm sure, than just a plain old boring pocket. Now, I will say I'm a little surprised in the change, but not really, because I guess Classified sort of did it. But the writing on the chest where it says survival, which a lot of kids, including myself for a while, probably thought this was his name was Survival. He's got a survival shirt on. So it's much thicker writing here and thin writing there. But notice the orange hair color, the orangish hair color is sort of similar, because we're gonna bring in what this figure is more based on, and that is the Classified. I can't get my angles right today, or my size and scaling. So now you can see the differences. He's got probably more realistic coloring for the hair, more Chuck Norris-ish. Then that's definitely a little bit too bright an orange, but I still like this. What I see, and if that's what you had as a kid all these decades, then that's what you're used to. But when you start looking at it, like the gun, they did the gun the same yet different, because it's the exact same looking gun, except there's the silver and this one is black. Same straps. Seem to be sort of strapped down in the same spots, I think. One difference is we do have, as you saw with the articulation with Bazooka, we have the two different ball joints, the diaphragm and the waist, versus what we get over here with the cutout. So depends on what you like better. there's no right or wrong for that. It is more of a preference. Also, when you get into looking at like the shirt sleeve, the sleeve goes up much higher. It's not rolled up as high on this one. So there was a creative difference, but you get down to everything else, it's the same. So down to these guns. Well, this one has like a wrap on it, and so does that one, but it's kind of like a green color, so it's not as, doesn't stand out as much. And then you've got the knife down here, you've got the flashlight, but no paint hit that I see. Or if it is a paint hit, it's not silver. See, it's got a glare on it. It's got something in there, but it's not like the same, it's not like a bright, shiny silver like this one. So there are some differences. And then let's get to the backpack. Like, looks almost identical, except bigger, and there's more paint hits. A silver shovel versus a black shovel, which actually makes more sense, because, I mean, how many black shovels are you going to see? If it's painted, it's still going to have some weathering, because if it's been used, all that kind of stuff. Anyway, there it goes. Yes, this line is based on classified. Alright, so this is my look at the latest, I guess you could say, wave from Hiya Toys for their Exquisite Mini G.I.Joe figures, 4-inch scale, classified style, which, to be honest, classified did go pretty retro after the first few waves, so it's retro style in a way too. I do like these. I like these figures. I do like that we get sort of the same level of detail, the same level of accessory usage and storage and all that kind of stuff that you got with the classified line, but for the 4-inch scale, so almost half the size. It has to be challenging on some level. Like, the ball jointed hands like to pop off, but it's not a big deal once you get them posed in place. Everything's staying. It's my biggest frustration is messing with the hands and the ball joints and getting them around the gun handles and stuff. But as you can see, and I think this one was the hardest. As you can see, once you get it done, it holds fine. It looks good. Aside from that, I mean, it's just a lot of fun with these figures. Now, they are not cheap. They're between $30 and $40 at Gundam.com. I'll have a link down below where each one of these, you find each one of these if they're still in stock. But I do know that if you get them at, like, TF Sources charging $50 and up for these, so I like to get them where I can get them the cheapest, and that's just the way it is. And this is one of those things that they're not doing extra runs. It's one and done, and then they do repaints of the same mold to get the use out of the mold. But let me know what you guys think about this line, these figures. Which of these four do you think look like they were the best of the wave? I think Bazooka's the best. I still love Outback. I like them all, actually. And maybe I'll go back. I guess since I don't have a VIPER, I probably need to get one. Anyway, let me know what you think. Today, Hangar out.